I'm Dr. Erica Bove, and welcome to the Love and Science podcast. I'm your host, and also the founder of Love and Science, Thriving Through Infertility. I'm so excited you're here today. With over a decade of experience helping thousands of women just like you, I empower professional women to build their families with confidence and compassion. Let's dive in. Hello, my loves, and welcome back to the Love and Science podcast. I have an amazing guest today, Dr. Dina Wilson. She's a friend, she's a colleague, she is a female physician with an incredibly long fertility journey, which we're so grateful that she's going to share today. Dr. Dina, it's so great to have you. Thank you for being on the podcast.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I feel so honored to be able to use your platform to share my story and spread awareness.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know your Instagram platform, you use that as well. So we'll make sure that everybody has all your information in the show notes, because I think we all want to make sure that, people like us have had success. I think it's terrifying to think that we might get through the end of this without a child or without, it's like, when is this going to happen, or how much longer I'm going to have to do this? And, I'm hoping we can talk a little bit about your own journey today, in terms of like how it all started, how it was going, how you got through it, all those things, because I think especially being a female physician with infertility, it's a really big mountain to climb. But I also wanted to share for context. So you are a hospitalist in the Pacific Northwest, in Oregon specifically, right?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. You went to med school a little bit later. You started at 30. What did you do before medical school?
So I was a clinical laboratory scientist, is what they call them now, or previously known as med tech. So we were the people who sit behind the scenes in the lab and do all the testing that doctors send to the lab. So, the CBCs, the chemistries, the cultures, PCRs, basically learn the nitty gritty of all the testing. And yeah, it was a great background to have.
Yeah, absolutely. And then what made you decide you wanted to go to med school? Like, how did that shift for you?
I always had the desire, but never really had the confidence to go after it. I just, didn't feel good enough or smart enough, so I shelved it for a long time. And then actually when I met my now husband, he was in the process of applying to medical school. So being there firsthand, kind of witnessing the process and seeing that, these people are normal people like you and me. And, there's no like deity or whatever that we hold doctors up to, like they're.
Yeah.
So it just kind of helped me realize like, oh, okay. So basically there's trained and untrained. I can learn, I can go and learn how to be a doctor. I can get trained. And so once I got the confidence and, did the prerequisites and the MCAT and all that, finally made my way to starting at 30.
Beautiful. And tell me a little bit more about like when you met your husband and all this, what your vision of motherhood was. Some people always knew they wanted to be a mom since they were a little girl. Other people that sort of evolved with time. Sometimes actually after meeting a partner, they're like, well, now my thoughts have shifted. What was that process like for you?
Oh man. Yeah. I'm one of those that kind of knew ever since she was itty bitty. She wanted to be a mom. It was just very early. I had a baby brother and, I always wanted to hold him and carry him and take care of him. But, fast forward, years later, I met my husband. Actually, I was really lucky. We met early. I was 23 at the time, was married by 24 because
Wow.
we crossed paths in the lab right when he was in the process of applying, got accepted to medical school. And so when we were meeting, dating, and getting engaged, he needed to move to start his journey. So, we met and married early on, and we talked about family and what that would look like. I always wanted at least 4 kids. I went from 6 to 4 through time. I go from
Yeah.
And so in the beginning, he wasn't wanting to start off immediately because he knew he would be, consumed with training in medicine. So we were like, okay, we'll put it off for a couple of years and then reassess from there.
Mm-hmm. And then tell me then what happened from then.
So unfortunately, I got my diagnosis early, but not in the way you would think. probably a couple years into being married, I went and wanted to get evaluated by an OB because I never did go on birth control. We just thought we were that good, like the timing was spot on. And anyway, the doc at the time did all the testing, ran some basic labs, told me everything was normal and that I was young and not to worry. And so I kind of took that to mean, okay, well, I'm good. And then waited like a
You were what, like 25-ish? 25-ish?
25-ish, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
And then another year from there, same thing with a different doctor, exact same presentation, like, oh, you're young, don't worry about it. And same thing with it. Unfortunately, happened 3 times basically. And during that interval, I
Wow.
mean, neither one of us were trained medically, so we didn't really know how to advocate for ourselves or to even know to advocate or to know that, there was something awry and that maybe a referral to reproductive endocrinology would be nice. Or so we just didn't know. We were like, okay, like they're doctors. Okay, that's great. So
Wow.
then
Oh my gosh, like it just makes my heart
I
hurt.
know,
But
I
I mean,
know.
I get it. We see it. There's so many reasons for it, but it's just like, oh man, it was like you had access to medical care. You were there. It was just like people were just like, oh, you're young. Did anybody check your tubes? Did anybody check the sperm? Like you said they checked labs, but we know there's some
They
more to
did
the
do
story than
sperm. I
that.
think one of them did sperm testing, but it was all labs.
Yeah.
I don't call any ultrasounds or HSGs or anything like that.
Wow. Okay, so at what point did you finally see an REI and how much longer was that?
So unfortunately, once I got evaluated by the OBs in that interval, I decided I wanted to pursue medicine myself. So we just kind of shelved it. We were like, well, something's going on, but we'll just do IVF. Like, seriously, that was our motto. Like, well, we'll just do IVF maybe at some point if it doesn't happen. And so
Yeah.
I started medical school in 2008 and finished in 2012, went on to internal medicine residency, finished residency in 2015. And, nowhere in that time did we have like time. You know how the medical system is and the training. Like, there's no luxury of going to an OB or going to an REI or any of that. Like,
Hmm.
it's like, okay. And then by 2015, I was officially done training. He was finished and we were in a ton of debt. We couldn't afford IVF. So, and we didn't have coverage, we were both employed and had insurance and it
Yeah.
just didn't cover anything.
You were
So I was,
37 then?
yeah,
30,
37-ish. Yeah. Hmm.
37.
Hmm.
Okay. So now you've been like over a decade of of living your lives and nothing connecting. Okay.
Yeah. Nothing. Yeah.
Okay. But then you're in debt and you're like, well, our plan was always to do IVF, but we can't really access
We can't.
IVF.
Right.
We can't afford IVF. Right.
We can't afford it. And I mean, my husband was really reluctant to do it, with, 2 pairs of student loans that we had. So we went balls to the walls
Right.
working basically to pay off everything. Like we just worked as hard as you can
Wow.
work, paid paid most of it off, and then finally in 2016 started IVF.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
So like, let's just pause a second and think about your mindset at that point. Like, what do you remember? Sometimes it like I delete memories if I don't want to remember them. Sometimes things
Yeah.
all run together like a big blur. But if you are to like close your eyes and think about that time of your life, what do you remember about that time when you had finished training, you had just worked so hard, and to pay off significant debt, and then you're about to start IVF? What were you thinking?
I mean, quite frankly, because of how naive I was very excited. Like I just thought, here it is. Like I am going to have my family. And yeah, I was super excited because I was so clueless, obviously. Sorry, I'm getting choked up.
No, no, no. Thank you so much for sharing. I mean, this is so relatable, right? And I think, we're taught, especially in medicine, problem solution, diagnosis, treatment plan, and that if you just can make the diagnosis that everybody's going to get better from whatever it is. I mean, we understand oncology, that's like a different realm, but for the most part, if you can just think hard enough about what's going on and figure it out, then medicine is gonna be the answer. It's gonna, you
Right.
know, trump everything else. And that I think that's the thing that I've really learned myself personally and professionally through the medical journey, you know, is that it really is not true. It really is not true. But I think going in with this expectation, and I think sometimes too, I try not to be guilty of this myself, but to say, how can we set reasonable expectations from the beginning? Just like you say on your website, that
Yeah.
like, IVF sometimes takes more than one try, but I don't think that that's disclosed enough in the beginning to say, hey, this might be a long journey.
Mm.
This might take, you know, months to years. You might need more than one cycle. Like just prepare people that it's the
Oh,
marathon and not the sprint.
absolutely. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. You did your first cycle.
Yeah, did the first cycle completely oblivious, so much so that we decided to have an IVF party. So, invited a bunch of my medical school friends in various states who were also finished. So we were celebrating, finishing residency, going on to attendinghood. And I was like, well, we're doing IVF, but if we time it around my retrieval, then we can just, hang out and party and explore Oregon afterwards. So about 3 or 4 of them flew in. And cycle went great. I responded beautifully, tolerated everything. We had 17 eggs retrieved. My REI was ecstatic. I remember her coming to the post-op recovery or the post-procedure area. She was like, we got 17. And we were thrilled. And then the next day, we were hanging out like in the Columbia River Gorge in Oregon, and we got the call that, 8 fertilized. And my husband and I hugged each other and we thought, oh my gosh, what are we going to do with 8? Like 8 kids? We can't have 8 kids. This is crazy.
Yeah.
And I mean, yeah. So, they
Yep.
tell you you're going to get the day 5 call. And then we were at Cannon Beach getting ready to go have lunch. My phone started ringing and I thought, oh my gosh, this is weird. Why are they calling me on day 3? This is 2 days early, and
Mm,
I just hear this literal like squeal or scream. I don't even know. It was so traumatizing, but it was the embryologist. And she's like, I don't know what happened, but all your embryos arrested. And I have no idea what's going on. I've never seen anything like this. And Erica, like that moment, sometimes you have moments in your life where you feel like just time literally stands still, like everything stops.
yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
that was one of those
And that
moments.
that that happened, right?
Yeah.
Mm, I'm so sorry. So then at some point I know, so much space and grace and they think these things are so emotional and like when I tear up on podcasts, I say it's like a sign how important this is and how much grief there still can be. Spoiler alert, you became a mom, but like to think about all those hard moments is just like it's really, really hard. And so I'm so grateful that you're sharing
Yeah,
your story here.
of course, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I mean, just to fast forward, because it was a long journey. We did another cycle, different protocol, got 6 eggs the second time. So same thing, exact same outcome, day 3
Yeah.
embryo rest. And by then I had, you know, just asked around a lot. I believe I joined the physician group too and learned about day 3 transfers and different things. And I learned, I was able to glean hope that, hey, this day 3 arrest wasn't such like a crazy anomaly in the sense that, yeah, it does happen. It wasn't, just this
Yeah.
isolated case. So that was in a bit reassuring, gave me hope. But I had asked my REI in clinic at the time, and she basically looked at me and said, if you want a day 3 transfer, you need to go to a different clinic. So that was a big
Mm,
blow. Um,
yeah. Right. Right. Because that's
yeah,
a delay. You got to start over with somebody else. You got to wait to get in. And was it because their clinic did not offer day 3, like their lab?
yeah,
They just didn't do it. Yeah.
no, I didn't do it.
Yeah.
So we,
Individualized care, I really,
right?
really do believe we should be offering that nuanced care. But I think you bring up a good point, Dina, is that there is a lot of variation. And I think, one thing I love to help people with is to sort of ask some of the questions in the beginning that can help people understand. The hard part is nobody thinks it's going to be them, right? But to say, okay, how do you handle the harder cases? Who's your urologist who you work with? What are your thoughts on day 3 transfers? What are your thoughts on PTT? Tell me about your lab success rates. How do you handle unexpected outcomes? Like to be a active, it's like being an active citizen, to be an active participant in the healthcare, you just don't know what you don't know. Right. And so
Right.
I think, I love helping people ask these questions from the beginning. When I chose my OB, I wanted to know who could do the fastest stat C-section because I was an OBGYN resident and knew that that was like, I just expected to have a need for a crash section. And I wanted to know at the outset, if that happened, who would be the
Wow.
best one to do it. It's the same thing with IVF. If
Yeah.
again, this is just how we're female physicians, like we can't unsee the things we've seen. So it's like,
Hmm.
anybody who's listening can have an unexpected outcome in IVF or otherwise. And
Hmm.
so how to plant the seeds on the early side, how to ask those questions, and then to give yourself the permission if you do need something more nuanced, you know, no harm, no foul. Like I always want my patients to go where they can get the best care. If we don't offer something in our clinic, guess what? Go somewhere else. I will help ease that transition. But, at that point, it was clear that after 2 unsuccessful cycles, you had to move on. And I know it's disappointing. It's almost like a breakup?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
it was very tough. Um, and I love everything that you said. I just wanna, yeah, just double heart what you just said because I wish I'd had someone like you in my corner back then. I feel like a lot has happened in the fertility space since I was going through it in the beginning. And I mean, having someone like you who knows all the nuances, not only
Thank
as an
you.
REI, but as a coach, and I think that's such an incredible resource for women out there.
Thank you. We educate and we empower, right? Because you don't know what you
Yeah.
don't know. And I mean, my own mother just had a major health issue in the spring. And, that was out of my wheelhouse, right? My wheelhouse is REI. Like
Yeah.
ICU, cardiac stuff, way out of my wheelhouse. And I was just so humbled by how many female physician colleagues came and called and said, how can I help? What decisions do you have to make? How can I help orient you to our welcome to our foreign country of, cardiac surgery? Like,
I know,
it's
isn't it
just
crazy?
so, as a female, like, I think the hard part, and I want to get into this in a little bit too, is like, as female physicians, I think we should understand this. You're like, well, I've been to medical school, so clearly I must understand all the things about all these nuanced areas of medicine. So we feel like shame even that we're not able to bring about our own successful outcome. And so I think we have to remind ourselves, like, just like I needed help from my CT surgery friends and my cardiology friends and all the things that I didn't know in medicine to help me as a physician daughter,
Hmm.
do my best in that situation. We all need people who know and breathe. It's like their zone of genius.
Well, and just like most female docs out there, and I'm sure who've been on your podcast, I mean, that's been a big source of guilt and just, I don't know, emotional torture for me is having the unexplained diagnosis, not be able to find the answer. It's been something I've struggled with.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Obviously, I'm sure that resonates with so many listeners. Like, you know, what helped you as a female physician who you're making diagnoses like every day, right, for people.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so what was that like and what do you think we can do to help with that? And I have some ideas too, but I think it's useful to take a moment and think through it because that is so resonant for so many people, especially female physicians on this
Yeah.
podcast.
What helped, like being the physician and not having an answer? Is that what you're
Well, yeah,
asking?
what helped you and like as you think about how hard that has been to have this diagnosis of unexplained infertility, like what has helped you navigate that
I mean,
frustration, that black box, that inability to have answers?
I mean, to be totally frank with you, I don't know if I've ever been able to completely come to peace with it other than knowing, even as a doctor, I don't always have the answers. Like I don't. I can literally throw a person
Yeah.
in an MRI machine and get every image and run every lab, and I still can't explain their symptoms. So, in that sense, I know medicine isn't perfect. And, obviously there's something going on, but I'm not in a time and place where maybe I'll be able to know at this
Yeah.
where science currently is.
Yeah.
But it's just something I've
Yeah.
had to, I guess, accept. Yeah.
Yeah, right. And that you bring up a really good point that sometimes acceptance is like we resist, we avoid, we have the grief stages, we get angry, nothing is ever done. We go through these stages and then we go through them again, right? It's like a spiral. But I think, realizing that in 2026 or whatever year that you were going through this, like it sounds like maybe 6+ years ago, that, I tell my patients with unexplained infertility, there is something. You have a diagnosis. We just don't have a name for it beyond infertility. And there's probably something genetic. We're learning more and more genetic things about how people's eggs undergo meiosis and mitosis and just all the different things. Fertility is so complex in terms of all the things that have to happen right to bring about a baby. Like it is like at the level of the endometrium and the egg and the sperm and the embryo. I
Oh,
mean, it is so
yeah.
complicated. And so I'm amazed that anybody is here, honestly, when I actually think about it. And
I,
so then to think about the fact that we have all these genetic things we haven't yet figured out. And yes, we have tools in the toolkit. It is very unsatisfying not to
Mhm.
have a diagnosis. But I think you leave no stone unturned in the year that you're in. And like you said, do everything you can to bring about your successful outcome. And at some level, accept the gray and the lack of concrete answers. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Hello, my loves. I am so excited to share this news with you. If you are a female physician navigating the fertility journey and you want a structured, evidence based plan, I have created a free resource for you. It's called the Physician Fertility Roadmap. I have created a guide to help you optimize your chances of pregnancy and a successful outcome over the next 6 to 12 months. Check out the link in the show notes. Love you. Bye.
So, okay, so here we are. You've done 2 cycles. Then tell me what happened after that.
So after 2 cycles, we decided to go to Washington. There was an REI there who got really good reviews in terms of just being compassionate, employing shared decision making, and um, being a big advocate. So we went there. We did 2 cycles there as well. She was amazing. She was just so amazing. Like she wanted so hard to have this work for us, and she consulted with her own attending who she worked with in Cornell, like, ran our entire case by him,
Mhm.
and he basically came up with our protocol, and, everything went great. Perfect stem, perfect, I mean, we've gotten, I don't, our average was, 10, 15 eggs every cycle, and they'd all arrest on day 3, just complete embryo arrest on that third one. Then the fourth cycle or the third cycle, she let me do a fresh day 3 transfer. It didn't work. And we tried to push the rest
Mhm.
of the labs and they arrested. And then on cycle 4, um, we kind of we had a hard time with the whole like what should we do. She really wanted to push the blast assist, and at that point I was so traumatized. I was like, I'm not sure I can do this anymore. And so anyway, we pushed them all to
Yeah.
blast. And they all arrested. And she in so many words insinuated like she felt like she was done, like not because she didn't want to, she just didn't know what else to do. um
Right.
yeah.
Right. She's like, you've done 4 cycles.
Yeah.
All the tools in my toolkit. At that point, had anybody checked DNA fragmentation?
Yes.
That was checked. It was normal.
Hmm. Yeah, that was normal.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then I heard from the physician fertility group, basically someone recommended, CCRM. And they said, they have a really good lab, lots of success there. And I don't, is it a, so I went there and met with Dr. Schoolcraft, actually. I don't know, you can,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
uh, and he's very upfront, and will tell you like it is. And he basically was like, "Well, you've proven yourself several times at reputable labs. I'm not really sure I have anything else to offer." He was like, "At your age, by then I'm 41, I think." At 41,
Wow.
your odds are less than 10%. And I don't really know
Yeah.
if we can do anything different. He's like, well, we're doing this IVN thing. Maybe we can give it a try. There's been some patients who've had success forming blasts using this protocol. So
And that's
we,
in vitro maturation, right? In
correct.
vitro
Yes.
maturation. Yeah.
Vitro
Just if anybody is listening and they don't know what that is, that
Yeah.
means that you take out the eggs and then of the immature eggs, you mature them in the lab and then fertilize them and then make embryos.
Correct. Yeah. And it
Yep.
involves like
Okay.
way lower doses of meds, very like minimal stim, early retrieval, very early retrieval for me at least. So we did 2 retrievals. But the first retrieval, the plan was to push the blast. And I remember we were in the Colorado airport getting ready to fly home, and they called and said that Dr. Schoolcraft just looked at your embryos. He physically looked at them, and he felt like they were lagging behind in growth. So he's recommending a freeze all on day 3. And I was just devastated. I just remember just bawling again because, in our mind, this was going to be the answer, right? Like this was going to be like when we first walked up to clinic, my husband still teases me because I was like, oh, it's the magic kingdom. This is where all the magic happens.
Oh.
But
Oh.
anyway, yeah, we froze them. We were like, well, whatever you recommend, we'll do. And then, we followed with another retrieval and froze again on day 3. And then, I remember doing our follow-up visit, and I said, well, what are we gonna do with these day 3s? And he's like, we're gonna transfer them. And so we did our very first FET, frozen embryo transfer in December of 2019. We transferred 4 day 3 embryos, and lo and behold, one of them stuck. And then in March, they declared the pandemic in the world.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is wild. When you reflect on the fact that you got pregnant on your 6th IVF cycle with a day 3 transfer, like given less than 10% chance of success, is there anything that you can look back on? Like, obviously, you trusted your gut, you changed clinics, you were your biggest, fiercest advocate. Is there anything that you can explain this? Like, or do you feel like if finally just that soul that was meant to be yours came to be yours? Like, what do you make of it? What do you make of it?
I mean, I think so many things, but obviously I do believe that his soul that was meant to be, was he just kind of waiting, I guess, for the vessel to be ready. I don't know. But, I mean, just having like a knowing in your gut, and not afraid to take the road less traveled. I mean, I just had to know that I don't fit in this box that people are trying to put me in, you know? And the funny thing is that that was going to be our very last cycle. Like we had grieved and come to terms with, if it didn't work, we were done.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I do anecdotally see that when people do surrender in that way and say, okay, like I can no longer be attached to this. I'm gonna hope for the best, but if this doesn't work, like we have to move on. Like I do
Right.
find that people who are in that mindset, the treatments seem to work better. And
Yeah.
I can't explain it. I mean, I think there's probably some nervous system connection. There's probably some HPA axis, difference. Again, we are meaning makers, so we try to find meaning where it is. But I will say that when I see people truly surrender to the process in whatever way that means for them, it just tends to work better. I want to bottle it up. I really do. But I can't because that's
Right.
just
Yeah.
surrender is a hard process that we undergo.
Oh man, it is.
Um, does that resonate for, do you feel like you're in that sort of an emotional mindset or no?
I mean, yes and no.
Yep.
I feel like, I'll never know, right? Because I said it and that was the plan, but I'll never know had it not worked.
Right.
What would we have tried again? Or,
Right.
it's funny because during the 2 week wait, I was so upset because obviously I was testing early and I was getting that stupid, what do they call it? The evap lines on the
Yep.
test.
Yep.
Um, I was losing my mind. I was exercising like a crazy woman. I don't know, hours on the Peloton bike, everything they tell you not to do. And I told my husband, I was like, well, maybe we need to look at this donor thing, like just give it like, I don't know, go watch videos. And he was so mad at me. He's like, we don't even know yet. Like we're in our 2 week wait.
Yeah.
And just all the feelings just came out, just unleashed. And, when they did my beta, it was 11 and they called me and told
Wow.
me to expect a chemical transfer or
How far,
pregnant.
do you remember how far after your transfer that was? I mean, usually after day 3, it's like 11-ish days because that's around the time of the missed period.
Yeah, I think there was a misunderstanding. They tested me early on day 9
Got it.
because they hardly ever do day 3 transfer.
Again, you were outside of their box, outside of their
Right.
protocol.
Yes, exactly. I threw them
Ah,
all for a loop and nobody caught it until the second
oh
beta.
gosh.
A
Oh
nurse,
dear.
one nurse realized that we were off with our betas. So she's like, oh my God, wait a minute.
What was your second beta? Do you remember?
I want to say it was like in the 60s or something.
Okay, okay, fine. So we wouldn't have flagged that as anything abnormal. That's so again, you had that like blip in the system where you're like, oh my gosh, I'm pregnant, but this is, very cautious. And then it was like a false alarm even,
Right. Right.
Ugh.
Yeah. It was just so crazy.
And then how was the pregnancy after all of that trying, after years and years of seeking and treatments and everything. Like, do you
Yeah.
feel like you were on eggshells? Yeah,
Totally. 18 years. The first few
yeah.
months were
Wow.
just insane. And it was just all anxiety. Like, this isn't happening. Something bad's gonna happen. I kept thinking it was a blighted ovum. My husband, he's an ER doctor. He'd
Yep.
have to like go and look up PubMed and show me the data, show me like after so many betas, what are the risks? And, he, bless
Mm,
him, he had to work really hard on my anxiety. And then, of course, there was the trauma of like COVID and him not being able to come in on the ultrasounds. They had a wild woman on their
yes, I
that
remember
was
that. Ooh,
yeah.
the terrible time. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
18 years, my
But
friend. Wow.
18 years, yeah. It's just I still can't believe it. Yeah. Um, but once I kind of I think got through that first heartbeat and then the subsequent ultrasounds, I started to calm down
Yeah.
a little bit. And yeah. Other than that, it was a great, beautiful pregnancy. Yeah.
Wow. And I would imagine, I mean, did insurance cover any of this for you, the IVF?
No, no, it was
Yeah.
all
Have
out of
you
pocket.
totaled how much you probably spent?
We have an idea, but it's
Yeah.
just too traumatizing to say.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's,
I mean, I would venture to say 6 figures at least.
oh, for sure. Yeah,
I would venture to
at
say it
least,
like
at
easily
least,
6 figures.
at least. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That was, that was our
Okay.
first journey
Your
because
first,
we
your first
decided,
journey.
yeah, we decided after having Zaid, obviously having him, we were like, all we want is one, we'll be done. It's over. Like, just please God give us our baby. And then I don't know. It was just the amount of love and just joy that he brought to our life, and just the miracle of it all. We thought we would try again for a sibling, and of course now I'm a lot older. And but I mean, I started when he was about 15 months. And yeah, pretty much same thing, the original diagnosis plus diminished ovarian reserve on top of that.
Reserve.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, it's wild. It's he's a true miracle in every sense of the word, but I feel like there are so many points in our journey where things could have been better addressed. And I can feel a
Mm-hmm.
lot of that guilt, like, I wish I knew, I wish I had known in my 20s, or, I wish I had
Yeah.
known to go to an REI. I wish I had known to freeze my eggs. Granted, that probably wouldn't have helped me. I don't know, but
Right. It's just, yeah, it's like it is hard. And I think the guilt, it represents the feeling of like I did something bad. Right.
yeah.
And like I'm obsessed with like Brene Brown has this awesome book. It's like right over there, like 10 feet to my left. It's called Atlas of the Heart. And she talks
Oh,
about like 88 different emotions and like the definition of each emotion. And, but the guilt really is, I have a physician friend who told me once, she was a mentor of mine. She said, guilt, it's such an expensive emotion. And isn't that true? Guilt is so expensive. It really is. And one of the problems with guilt, I mean, I was raised Catholic, and so like there's this sort of like you atone for your sins, and you have all this guilt about your sins, and I think that guilt is I did something bad, and then what often happens is that morphs into shame, which is I am bad,
mm-hmm.
and then we get into the shame spiral, right? And so I think you mentioned a lot of points in your journey where you felt shame. And that is something, and you write about this too, like that is something that I think is especially hard as a female physician, is like that guilt shame continuum.
Oh,
And it's
yeah.
really hard to get out of it once we're there.
Yeah, it's like, how did I not know? I'm a doctor. Like, I mean, I've called myself every name in the book. You're a freaking doctor. How could you not know all this? How did you not know the IVF doesn't always work? Like, you just put your entire life on hold thinking, I'll just do IVF. Like, this was a failsafe. I mean, so many points of frustration. I don't know. They'll probably go with
Yeah.
me to my clinic.
Yeah. And so are you still pursuing treatment for your second child? Yeah.
I am.
Yeah.
Even
Yeah.
though, yeah, they are not good, but it's just, I don't know. It's just one of those things, I guess, that my motto is don't die wondering. And maybe some of it is just that first time, with everything being so much against me and things working. Maybe a part of me hopes that I can find something, but I don't know. I mean, obviously, I'm a lot more wide-eyed about it
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Aware.
Informed. Yeah.
Thank you. That's the word I'm looking for. A lot more informed, and I have insight into the situation. And although some would disagree, they'll be like, "What? You're 48 trying again? Like, this is crazy." But I don't know.
If you're listening right now and finding yourself nodding along, this is usually the moment people realize that they want support that's specific to them. In addition to this podcast, I offer one-on-one fertility consults where we look at your full picture with both strategy and compassion. You can learn more in the show notes. Now, let's get back to the conversation.
You said you had the desire in your heart for 6, and then you adjusted that to 4. And that is something I talk a lot about, is like, the goalpost, and like, does that have to change? Are there like, it's a really complicated question. And especially when you've gotten like the taste of motherhood and how beautiful it is, and you got pregnant against all the odds, it like when you have a
Yeah.
dream in your heart,
Yeah.
I understand.
It's
Yeah.
so complicated. Like I have days where I'm thinking, you know, like why can't you just be one and done? Like you shift your grief and your trauma and your guilt shifts to a different frame right now. I'm like, why can't you just be one and done and grateful for everything that you have?
Hmm.
The man's still struggling for one. Like he's healthy and you had him at 42. Like move on with your life. Why? And it's like the cycle of just just constant criticism.
Yeah, I mean, we know like I'm always astounded when I shine a light on my thoughts and feelings, which is essentially coaching, right? Which is to say, like, isn't it interesting how critical how they have that layer of self-judgment that we don't even like it's insidious and it's almost invisible, but then you're like, wow, would I talk to a friend like I just talked to myself? Probably not. But it's
Oh,
like, we just have years of this ingrained in us. And one thing I love to talk about in my work with clients is like, okay, how do I want to feel? Like the circumstance is trying to have a second kid. Nobody would argue with that. That is not loaded in any way. That is like as factual as it could be. Nobody in a court of law would argue with that, right? And so then I think, okay, well, I help my people think, like, what feeling do you want to have in that context? Is it steady? Is it calm? Is it living without regret? Is it, values-based decisions? Like what is that feeling that, you or anybody else who's navigating this journey? A secondary infertility, I think, is especially difficult because it's like it worked once before. Why is it not working again? Even
yeah.
if our brains offer us reasons, it's like it's just maddening and frustrating and all those things. And so that's what I love to do is I love to say, okay, well, how do I want to feel? And, maybe it's aligned. Maybe it's like this is in alignment with my vision and my goals. And so then it's like, okay, well, let's back up and say, well, then what would I have to think to feel aligned? And then we generate the mantras, then we generate the thoughts. But I think that is one way that I love to help people in the messy middle of treatments and uncertainty and all those things to say, okay, like I'll know, like I will know when this feels complete. I will either have another baby or I will get a message from the universe that it is time to stop. But like in this moment, it does not feel complete. And so we're going to keep on moving forward with support, with community, with knowledge, like no more messing around, without all of that. And like you say, like on your website, you say like IVF actual stats. People need to know. One size does not fit all. Like we need personalized care. Like don't do it alone. Get the support you need to navigate this journey, like
Yes.
wherever that comes from. But like lean into your loved ones, right? And be prepared to fight. It's a fight. It's kind of like cancer. People fight cancer. People fight infertility. There's
Right.
that expression warrior for a reason. Let go of the guilt.
The guilt is just
Yeah.
awful. The guilt
Yeah.
is
And that's a
just,
daily discipline of like recognizing it's there, like getting curious about it, letting it go, processing the feelings. It's
yeah,
it's easier said than done. But
yeah.
we can feel so much lighter when we realize we're carrying that backpack and then we are able to finally set it down. It's amazing.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because like you can ask yourself the question, did I do something bad? Like at the age of 23, 24, like just having compassion for that younger version of yourself, like I've not heard in any of your story that you like went and murdered somebody or went and like, robbed a store or something like that. That's like those are things that like people have like actual guilt for. You know what I mean? I'm like, I
Right.
don't know, I mean, yes, we can code stuff as like, oh, I should have done this, I should have done that, I should have done this. But like
Oh,
you trusted your healthcare team and then you decided to become a doctor and put things, you just like, you tabled things because you had priorities and we all understand that. One of my mentors said to me, you can have everything you want in life, usually, but just not at the same time. And so like,
right.
you're like, okay, this is your story. So I think too, whenever I feel guilt, I try like as a person who was raised Catholic, who, really does believe in forgiveness and like all of those virtues, I think, okay, was the actual first thing that I'm feeling guilty about, is that something that I wrong somebody, And like if I did, then let's bring some forgiveness because that's important. And if I didn't, then let's bring some self-compassion
Mhm. Yes, I totally agree, but it's so hard.
It is so hard.
So hard for
But
me.
it's hard for everybody, I think,
Uh,
especially female physicians who are responsible for everybody else's care. So it's like, why not be responsible for our own care? But that is not how it works, but that's what our brains offer us. Um, I'm curious, being in medicine, being a female physician, how do you think that identity made this more complicated for you?
oh, I mean, the should, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
The should have, could have, you know, um, yeah, just a lot of the guilt, like, and the guilt of should have known, should have advocated, should have tried harder, should have not waited 6 months to do another cycle. I mean, that was a big thing, my husband and I. That was like the only thing I think that we actually sometimes wouldn't see eye to eye on. Like I had a time where I had a slip disc, and it was actually herniated, and I ended up needing a discectomy. But I mean, I was
Wow.
literally on the couch writhing in pain, knowing that I was going to need a procedure. And I brought up, well, maybe we can squeeze in another egg retrieval. And he said that was the moment I kind of knew. Like, he was like, that's when it became clear to me that you would just put your body through anything, you know,
Mm,
even if it was at the risk of your own health, to just,
wow.
you know, plow through. And,
Right?
um, I think, to circle back on your question, just, being doctors, I mean, I think a lot of the burden is that, we're trained, right? We're medically trained. And how did we not know the science or, the data? And, how did we not know to better advocate for ourselves? So I just think it's a big, complicated guilt sandwich.
It's really complicated. It really is. And I think that's one of the benefits of getting support is to challenge the thoughts that don't serve us, challenge the thoughts that aren't true. Because it's like the water we're swimming in. We don't even know we're swimming in water until it's like, oh, maybe that thought isn't true, or maybe that thought's not serving me, or like all those things. I think there's a lot of undoing to do.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah.
Yeah, totally agree. And I wish I had known like to do to get help sooner, but like I said, like coaches and counselors, I don't think it was as prevalent as it is now.
No.
And like even just to go to therapy, I mean, working full time as a hospitalist and then doing IVF full time, like there's no time.
Yeah.
I'm like, I got this. My husband's a doctor. We got good support. We can talk with each other, but I don't know.
It's not
Something,
the same.
yeah.
I also find, I mean, I'm about to release a series on like why it's hard to be in certain areas of medicine in particular. And I think hospice schedules, depending on your setting, can be somewhat like limited. Like I actually find that my hospice clients are often the ones who have a hardest time getting to appointments and things because you have your schedule. And sometimes it's really hard to trade with people because their schedules are fixed. And
Right.
so
Lots.
yeah, and so I have a lot of empathy, for the situation of people who are trying to serve the patients. They have
Yeah.
this schedule, we talk a lot about how to navigate that, right? But I do think that you have a good point. And, at some level we have to put ourselves first, but it's really, really hard to do when the patients need us to, or the
Oh,
system is dependent on us. Yeah.
exactly. And if anything, like I learned to set boundaries when it came to my schedule because the first job, it was very 7 on, 7 off. And I had to go from working days to nights. I was like, fine, just put me on nights. And so I would work a shift and drive an hour and a half to Portland. And there were days where I was like literally falling asleep behind the wheel. I'd get my
So scary.
ultrasound and then come to the car and take a nap for 2 hours before I could drive back home.
Mm,
Um, and so that was like, I look back now and I'm like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? How do you expect any kind of success doing that? But needless to say, I changed jobs and yeah, I just told them up front, this is what I need. I need this flexibility. And, yeah, I learned to set a boundary and set my non-negotiable, I guess. I knew what that was in that particular chapter of my life. And I think,
yeah. I think I just want to echo that. Like, you set boundaries, you asked for what you needed, you negotiated for it upfront. It's harder if you're in a situation to go back. But I always say, if you had appendicitis or if you had a new diagnosis of cancer or something,
Yeah.
people would figure it out. This is not elective.
Right.
And we have to learn how to advocate for ourselves to get what we need.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, medicine in its own will take so much out of us. I mean, and it just starts from the beginning and it doesn't end. Like, it keeps
Yep.
going. And so at some point you just have to say, hey, you know,
Yep.
time out. It's time.
Time out.
Yeah.
Yep.
Turn.
That's right. That makes so much sense. Oh my goodness. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story. I really just so much love and self-compassion and so much gratitude for everything that you've gone through and your willingness to share it with people who are still in the messy middle. Like you said, you're in a second round of messy middle. And so I think the more we can connect, the more we can share our stories. I always say shame cannot exist in isolation. So the minute that we share our truth, share our stories, let other people know that they're not alone, like, that's like, shame can't exist in those spaces. And that's one of the most powerful things we can do, I think, is come together and eradicate the shame and live our best lives, And so, is there anything else that you want our listeners to know or hear before we wrap this up today?
No, I just want them to know that, they're not alone. We see them, and I know it hurts. And I know sometimes no matter what people say or no matter how much someone tries to help you, it feels heavy. And, it's okay to sit with it. And if you can find space to share your journey or find a squad that supports you, if you can, but just know that you'll get to the other side. I know it's not clear sometimes, and sometimes it would frustrate me when I'd hear someone say that, especially when they were on the other side.
Yeah.
So I definitely want to I want to acknowledge that it's hard to hear sometimes, but just know that you're not alone. Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful. Dr. Dina, where can people find you? You're such an advocate. Instagram is my favorite place to find you, but let the
Yeah,
people know where they can find you.
where I hang out pretty much. I can only do one face. I'm at Dr. Dina. So yeah, I mean, it's a hodgepodge of everything. Yeah. Big feelings, little feelings, happy moments, just all the emotions.
Beautiful. And I hope you don't see Dr. Dina in a hospital bed, but if you do need her in that capacity, she is there to serve.
Probably not.
Okay.
Awesome.
Okay. Dr. Dina, thank you so much for
me.
coming on the podcast. And I look forward so forward to so many of our future conversations.
Likewise. Take care. Thank you so much.
Yep. And to my listeners, you know how much I love you. Until the next time. Bye. Thank you for listening to the Love and Science podcast. I'm so glad you joined us today. If you found this conversation valuable, if you could please rate, review, and share this podcast with your trusted people, it would mean so much to me. If you want more tools to help you navigate the fertility journey, please book a discovery call with me today. The link is in the show notes. Please do not let infertility have the final word. I'm here to take the burden from you so that you can achieve your goal of building your family. In gratitude, this is Dr. Erica Bove. I'm rooting for you always.